Right now, a man sits in a prison cell for a crime he didn't commit. A woman in a rural village is stripped of her land rights. A child is sold into labor, and a wealthy criminal walks free. We grow up believing the law is an impartial shield for the vulnerable, but the data suggests that in most of the world, justice has a price tag. Before written laws existed, humanity survived under a simple, brutal condition. The strong took whatever they wanted, and the weak suffered the consequences. This global population model tracks 8 billion lives. Today, despite our advances in technology, 5.1 billion people remain sheared off from basic legal protections. Researchers call this space the justice gap. This gap persists because our modern legal infrastructure was built for purposes other than universal protection. To understand why it fails 5 billion people, we have to look at the history of the legal operating system itself. In 1754 BCE, the powerful first documented their obligations to the powerless. Babylonian king Hammurabi carved 282 laws into this black stone stele so the oppressed could publicly understand their case. By 594 BCE, Athens introduced the concept of the People's Court. This marble bust represents the Greek tradition that replaced tribal feuds with logic and civic duty, allowing citizens to serve as jurors. The Romans systematized this architecture. They created a code of laws displayed in the public forum, introducing concepts we still use today, like the right to face an accuser and the principle of being innocent until proven guilty. When Rome fell, this systematized order dissolved. Justice reverted to the primitive authority of the sword, the church, and the absolute throne. In 1215, English barons forced a king to sign the Magna Carta. This document established that no individual, regardless of their rank, was above the law, planting the seeds for due process and constitutional rights. These ancient codes and charters successfully built a noble architecture for human rights. But as empires expanded across the globe, these exact tools were repurposed to extract wealth rather than protect it. As European empires conquered new territories, they systematically dismantled indigenous legal traditions. They replaced local order with a version of law designed for control. In 1835, British historian Lord Macaulay argued that European law was superior to all native traditions. He drafted a penal code for India that intentionally created an intellectual barrier, using a foreign language and foreign logic to manage the population. These codes functioned as engineering projects, prioritizing the collection of revenue and the suppression of dissent, ensuring the law served the governor over the governed. Empires ignored local ethnic and cultural realities. On this map, the arbitrary blue and red lines of the Sykes-Picot Agreement show how a few men in a room carved up the Middle East, creating the legal and political chaos that persists today. Colonial law provided a framework for extraction. The modern world is still running on this version of inequality, where the mechanisms of the state are engineered to protect those at the top of the hierarchy. After the horrors of World War II, humanity attempted to globalize justice. The Nuremberg trials established that heads of state could finally be held legally accountable for crimes against humanity. In 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights promised that every person was entitled to a fair and public hearing by an independent tribunal. However, as former colonies gained independence, they inherited the same broken bureaucratic and legal structures of their masters. The chains changed hands, but the underlying codes remained designed for extraction. Our global institutions reflect this legacy. At this table, 5 countries hold a veto power that can paralyze the rest of the world, ensuring that justice remains a privilege of the powerful. This inherited structure is why 5 billion people lack basic justice. We are attempting to manage a fast-moving, interconnected world using a colonial operating system that was never designed for equality. We cannot resolve these systemic failures through incremental reforms. When a system functions exactly as it was designed, a minor tweak to its rules will not change the outcome. Addressing the justice gap requires a new social contract. This framework establishes that sovereignty and human dignity are shared global responsibilities, extending protections beyond national borders. We can now use technology to neutralize the barriers empires once used to exclude the masses. If colonial law relied on linguistic exclusion, AI can translate complex jargon into local dialects. If corruption thrived in secret ledgers, blockchain provides transparent, auditable accounting for public funds. If centralized power enabled the veto, decentralized platforms allow for direct citizen input. The 3,000-year-old promise of justice remains unfulfilled because we have relied on legacy systems of control. To close the gap for 5 billion people, we must build a system of cooperation that prioritizes human rights over imperial extraction.